It all started with a ladder. A simple, aluminum extension ladder I'd used for everything from cleaning my gutters to fixing storm shutters. Nothing fancy, nothing special, until the day she asked to borrow it. Karen, every neighborhood has one. Ours crowned her years ago, self-appointed head of our HOA's aesthetic committee, self-described guardian of property values, and professional gossip with an unwavering devotion to passive-aggressive warfare. She lived 3 houses down, in a house painted a shade of beige that matched her personality perfectly. It was an early Saturday morning when she popped by. "Hey, could I borrow your ladder for, like, one quick gutter check? Promise I'll bring it right back." I'd been trimming hedges, sweaty, unguarded, and stupidly trusting. I said sure. She wheeled it away like a conqueror taking spoils. If you like watching HOA drama combust in real time, you'll want to stick around. Hit that subscribe so you don't miss how this one unravels. That was 5 weeks ago. By week 2, I gently reminded her. She smiled, waved me off. "Oh, I meant to return it. My nephew still needs it to hang some lights." By week 4, she stopped answering her door, or rather, answered but pretended she couldn't hear me through the Ring camera. Classic Karen move. Then came the HOA letter. Apparently my trash cans were visible from the street, a violation of HOA Rule 14b, for which I was fined $35 per day until rectified. The letter was signed, of course, by Karen, chair of aesthetics. That was when I realized this wasn't about a ladder, this was about control. The more I asked about it, the worse it got. She made snide comments during HOA meetings. "Some people can't even manage basic property upkeep," she'd say, eyes locked on me. Her cronies tittered. Then, 3 nails showed up in my driveway. Random, rusty, perfectly arranged for tire puncture height. A coincidence? Maybe. But my truck, the one with the empty ladder rack, suddenly had a flat that cost $200 to fix. Something inside me switched tracks from frustration to forensic curiosity. If neighborhood politics was a battlefield, I was done being polite cannon fodder. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of texts, timestamps of every interaction, photos of the empty spot in my shed where the ladder once stood, even the HOA letters she sent. The more evidence I collected, the more I realized how tangled her little empire of pettiness really was. She wasn't just breaking rules, she was weaponizing them. Late one night, as rain drizzled and porch lights reflected off the wet asphalt, I took a slow walk past her house. And there, leaned up against her side wall, unmistakable beneath a tarp's hem, was my ladder. My initials, engraved on the side, glinted faintly from under the cover. And next to it, a brand new decorative mailbox project, still mid-build. That was it, the point of no return. Karen hadn't borrowed my ladder. She'd stolen it, and she was using it to build something for herself. I smiled in the dark, rain dripping down my face. Because from that moment on, this wasn't a minor neighbor dispute. This was going to be a case file. I wanted my ladder back, yes. But now, I wanted something more satisfying. To see Karen's smug power trip implode under the same rules she weaponized. The next morning, I decided to trace every HOA bylaw, every procedural rule she'd ever used against others. I would play by her rules, better than she ever had. And with a plan forming in the back of my head, I reached for my phone and made 2 calls. One to a lawyer I knew, and another to a deputy who just happened to live one street over. What started as a borrowed ladder was about to become the neighborhood's biggest scandal yet. When people talk about revenge, they imagine shouting matches and broken fences. I prefer strategy, quiet, methodical, perfectly legal strategy. The kind that doesn't just sting, it documents. My first ally was Mark, the county deputy who lived on the next block. Ex-Marine, bad haircut, good heart. Over coffee at the diner, I laid out my situation. He chuckled, shook his head, and said, "Neighbor drama's messier than bar fights. But if it's your property and she refuses to return it, that's technically theft." So began the evidence hunt phase. I set up a small trail cam on my property line, angled discreetly toward her side yard. Perfectly legal since it captured only my property area, but just enough that if my ladder moved, I'd see it. I also logged every HOA document she issued, including 3 new fines she'd sent in 1 week. The timing reeked of retaliation, all dated the same days I'd confronted her. Meanwhile, I started digging into the HOA's own handbook. According to Section 3, Clause 8, Any board member caught acting in conflict of interest or persistent harassment could be removed by majority vote at an emergency meeting. I could practically hear an imaginary victory bell ringing somewhere. But to trigger an emergency meeting, I needed proof, preferably undeniable and, if possible, on video. That's where my second ally came in. Dana, a paralegal friend with a fondness for rules and ruthless precision. She helped me draft a certified letter requesting return of personal property, 1-1, aluminum ladder, engraved initials JT, last known in possession of Ms. Karen Steele. We sent it with proof of delivery. Karen signed for it. The signature, wonderfully defiant. That weekend, the trap was set. A light mist hung over the street as I walked my dog past her house around dusk. Sure enough, under her carport stood that same tarp-covered shape. But this time, it was leaning, tilted just enough to let the camera's night vision lens see the initials. 3 days later, I checked the cam. Jackpot. The footage showed Karen dragging the ladder out, using it to fix a roof-mounted birdhouse. Ironically, one shaped like a policeman's cap. The timestamp matched the day after she'd signed the letter. Her smirk as she climbed. It was practically cinematic. Armed with that evidence, I took the footage to Mark the deputy. He shook his head, jaw tight, and said, "That's bold. I'll file the preliminary report, but it'll go smoother if we loop in the HOA directly. Catch her trying to bury it." Which led to the grand center of neighborhood politics, the monthly HOA meeting. Now, usually these gatherings were dull affairs about lawn heights and mailbox colors. But this was going to be live theater. When I entered the community hall, conversations died down. Karen sat front and center, pearls gleaming, voice syrupy sweet as she said, "So glad you could make it, John. I hope you're finally ready to fix those trashcan violations." I just smiled. Actually, I came prepared. From my folder, I slid out the certified mail receipt, the HOA conflict clause, and, best of all, a still frame from the video. The clarity was breathtaking. Karen, mid-climb, my ladder gleaming in the sun. A murmur passed through the room like a wave. Karen froze, color draining, then forced a laugh. "That could be any ladder." I replied, just loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Not many any ladders have my initials carved into the side, dated 19, right next to that exact dent from where you backed your car into my fence, remember?" At that, even the treasurer coughed to hide a grin. Karen sputtered about misunderstandings and neighbors helping neighbors, but the president of the HOA, an older gentleman named Ron, now leaned forward, interest piqued. "Karen," he said evenly, "this is serious. Theft of property nullifies your authority in enforcement actions until cleared." You could have heard a pin drop. I thanked Ron, turned slightly, and handed copies of the evidence packet to 2 other board members. Per bylaw protocol, I'm requesting an emergency vote. Conflict of interest and harassment, Clause 8. Karen's eyes flicked between the documents, searching for oxygen. Mark the deputy, who'd come quietly and stood by the back wall, finally stepped forward. "Folks, just to clarify," he said, badge glinting, "that ladder's been logged in an active report. If it's on her property when I check this evening, we'll be recovering it." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was beautiful. Karen's smile cracked. "Fine," she muttered. "Maybe I did use it once or twice. I'll give it back." But as you'll soon see, the story didn't end with the ladder's return, because Karen's attempt to cover her tracks triggered a chain reaction of legal, neighborhood, and viral proportions she never saw coming. The night Karen agreed to return my ladder, I thought the saga was ending. She promised to drop it off first thing in the morning. Predictably, morning came and went, and my driveway remained gloriously ladder-free. But the deputy, Mark, kept his word. He swung by that evening with his body cam on, politely rang her bell, and asked about a certain missing item. Karen tried her usual charm, hand fluttering, laughter that could sand paint off a wall, but Mark's calm tone cut through. "Ma'am, we have video evidence of you using it 2 days ago. Could you please step aside so I can verify its return?" There's something delicious about that moment when a habitual manipulator realizes she's cornered. Her smile strained. She said something about mix UPS and nephew storage. But when she opened her side gate, there it was, my ladder, still dusted with roofing debris. Mark logged it, snapped a photo, and handed it to me like returning Excalibur. "Officially recovered property," he said. Unofficially, nice work. I thought that was the finale. Cue fade out, roll credits. But no, our queen of contradictions wasn't done. 2 days later, a notice appeared in everyone's mailbox. Special emergency HOA meeting, agenda, misconduct allegations. In tidy typeface at the bottom. Submitted by board chair, Karen Steele. She was trying to spin it before the minutes were official, accuse me of harassment and defamation before the vote to remove her could proceed. A move of stunning audacity and utter miscalculation. I was done playing defense. That night, I ran my own sting. Using the same community group chat Karen monitored, I posted a simple message. Reminder, the HOA handbook forbids personal vendettas, Section 3, Clause 8. Important discussion tomorrow. Transparency helps everyone. The chat exploded. Homeowners who'd suffered her pettiness for years began chiming in. The retired teacher fined for a single dandelion. The young couple forced to repaint their door twice. Stories poured out like whiskey at a wake. The next evening's meeting felt electric. 30 homeowners filled the hall. Karen tried opening with formalities. We must maintain decorum, but her voice trembled. Ron, the HOA president, took the gavel. Item 1, he said. Board complaint of misconduct against Chair Steele. Karen's last stand was a performance worthy of cheap daytime TV. She claimed my video was heavily edited, that the latter had been temporarily rehomed. She waved around a printout of my group chat post as if it were a manifesto. Then, from the back, Dana the paralegal raised her hand. She'd come with a folder labeled timeline. Calmly, methodically, she laid it all out. My certified letter, Karen's signature, the footage timestamps, the HOA clauses, the retaliatory fines, every thread tied neatly. By the time Ron finished reading the final clause aloud, gross misuse of authority, Karen's face had that tight, pale look of someone realizing the applause isn't for them. The vote to remove her took less than 5 minutes. Unanimous. But justice has a sense of humor. Part of the HOA's bylaws required any official removed under conflict of interest to forfeit all pending fines and submit to a financial audit. 2 weeks later, the treasurer discovered Karen had mishandled several landscaping invoices. The board transferred everything, records, invoices, and all, to the county regulator for review. When the county's report came back, it turned out she'd been inflating vendor quotes and pocketing the difference. Classic HOA greed dressed as civic duty. In the end, not only was Karen permanently banned from any board role, she was required to repay over $2,000 in misallocated funds. The irony? Half that repayment directly covered the fines she'd tried to slap on me. As for my ladder, it now stands proudly mounted on my garage wall, a symbol of small victories and sturdy aluminum justice. I even stenciled new letters down its side. KR, keep it recorded. Because that's the ultimate lesson of petty tyranny. Receipts beat rhetoric. And when someone tries to bully you with bureaucracy, sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting louder, it's knowing the rulebook better. Since then, our HOA meetings are quieter, friendlier, even productive. Ron runs them with transparency. The neighborhood lawns still match, but now they have freedom growing between the blades. Every so often, I see Karen drive by slowly, avoiding eye contact. Her once perfect beige facade now sports a slightly crooked mailbox, the same one she built using my ladder. I take that as the universe's signature move, poetic asymmetry. And me? I don't lend out tools anymore. But I do share one thing with every new neighbor: a cup of coffee, a smile, and this advice. Beware of the HOA dragon. But if you must dance with it, dance legally. And make sure you're the one holding the camera.